You want to wait 2 minutes or just start?
You can start.
Okay. Okay, guys, I'm gonna share my screen, and let's hope this is the right one. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So we are at the Grants District 5000 Grants Qualification Seminar, and I'm going to start right in because we have a lot of ground to cover. So, you know, the question is, why are we here and why are we emphasizing qualifications so much? Rotary Foundation grants, both district grants and global grants, are becoming a really fairly big deal. Last year in 2021, according to Ravi Ravindran, our former Rotary Foundation trustee, we funded more than 2,000 global grants, empowering Rotary members around the world to take on projects they care about and make differences in their communities. We raised $440 million for grants last year, which is a record. And like Ravi says, it's almost unbelievable considering the conditions that we were in, because it actually set a record for the amount of Rotary Foundation contributions for a year when, you know, everything else was falling apart. So the other thing that I really want to impress on you is that the Rotary Foundation is very well known and is one of the top 10 charities that everyone has heard of. So right now in 2022, the Rotary Foundation is the 5th ranked charity in the world by Charity Navigator. As you can see from this little diagram, we cover 90% of our expenses just from the earnings from our funding model. We spend about 6% on fundraising expenses and only 4% on administration. That's 4% of donations. So the rest of our administration is taken care of by our funding model. So right now, I'm going to turn this over to past District Governor Laura Steelquist. When she is not starting new Rotary clubs, Laura is our stewardship chair for the Rotary Foundation. So take it away, Laura.
Thanks, Mark. And thank all of you guys for coming out to this makeup session tonight. And we really do appreciate the fact that you have joined us on a Monday night. We know it's not always easy, but as Mike says, this is an incredibly important topic, and one that is near and dear to Rotary International's heart. What is stewardship? Why is it that we go through this qualification every year? I was talking to Roxy. She sent over a note and she goes, "I'm sorry I didn't come to the first one. I thought I'd already been to it." And yes, a lot of you have already been to this. But what this is making sure that the people who are going to be doing the grants understand the importance of good financial management. So stewardship is the responsible management and oversight of grant funds, which ensures that funds are used properly and truly benefit the population in need. So how do we do that? We supervise our projects. That's the great thing about Rotary, and why so many partners want to join with us, is that Rotarians have people on the ground wherever we're doing our projects. We implement our projects as they have been approved. We report any irregularities. We submit our reports in a timely manner. We always submit our reports on time. We retain our documents for 5 years, electronic and hard copy. Okay, so how is it that you get qualified? Every club has to be qualified every year. We in District 5000 recommend that the president-elect be there, but we require that any 2 club members be there. So the first thing for qualification is for 2 people to attend the grant management seminar. And congratulations, you guys are filling that tonight. So we hope that we are going to get most of those outliers who weren't at the original one so that that part will be accomplished. We have to have our 22-23 president and the president-elect for that year sign the qualification documents. You provide the name and account number of a dedicated district grant account. You have to submit the 2021 or the most recent IRS 999 and your GE annual tax filing, hopefully for 21-22. You have to have submitted your district grant final report. All of you guys did that. We were in on time and we were able to move on this year quite rapidly. And you have to be current on any global grant contributions that you've been asked for. There is a qualification checklist on the District 5000 website. Mark is going to go through that a little bit with all of the forms in a little bit later in the presentation. Okay. The qualification documents. I'm sorry.
Laura, there is a question on that slide on if the president and the PE are the same person. And I believe the last time we said it needs to be 2 different people.
It does need to be 2 different people. We always laugh and say you can get your most likely suspect as the second person for the person who's going to follow you as president, or you can get your foundation chair to do it. You can also ask any past president in the club, and if none of those people are available, then any other member of your club. Once you have I suggest you kind of review this slide presentation with them. But any 2 members of the club, the president-elect and then a second person have to sign.
Okay. And also on the IRS filing, that should be the one for June 30, 2022, right? That is due in November. That's due by November 15, correct?
Yeah.
Assuming everybody's all current. Yes, the most recent one, yes. Okay, so your Rotary Foundation, the qualification documents, again, as I mentioned, these are all on the D5000 website under the Foundation tab. And Mark will show you that a little bit later. Sorry, that was my phone. You have the Rotary Foundation Club Memorandum of Understanding. And this is the same form that our district leadership signs with Rotary International every year, stating that we will follow all the rules and we will maintain stewardship over the money. Then we also have the District 5000 addendum to the club Memorandum of Understanding, because that original Memorandum of Understanding was set up for global grants, and it states that you have to have a separate bank account for every single grant. And we certainly didn't want to do that to the district grant people, because some of the clubs can have 6 or 8 grants. So if you sign our addendum to the club MOU, that allows you to have 1 separate district grant account for your district grants. But that's all that can be in there are just your district grants. It can't be merged with any other funds. And then there's a District 5000 Club Financial Management Plan. It says you're required to have a foundation memorandum of understanding and District 5000 requirements in there. We have given you a template that you are welcome to use. Please read it and make sure that you understand what it is that you're signing. Okay. So just to go through it in a little bit more detail, the club qualification for global grants, okay? So that memorandum of understanding has to be signed, okay? In there, you'll find what the officer's responsibilities are. That thing that Mark mentioned about Charity Navigator and the fact that we have such a high rating with people in the community. It's why the Gates Foundation is willing to partner with us and give us another $2.1 billion. Hooray, to go global eradication, all right? So what it is, but we have to make sure that what we are doing properly. You'll sign the financial management plan. You'll make sure that your district grant account is in there. We really would like for your district grants to say your Rotary Club, Naomi's going to correct me after I say this because I always get it wrong. It's going to say your club account district grant, right? Your club name and district grant account. So that's all it's in there. It shouldn't say Foundation, Rotary Foundation. That will get to be confusing. And then you do your report. Our reports are due no later than May the 31st, but you can do them within 2 months of the completion of your grant. We encourage you strongly, if you've already used your district grant funds, go ahead and file your report, get it done, okay? Then you have to retain your documents for 5 years. I recommend to all clubs that you go back and you find out where your last 4 years of documents are. It's an interesting question to ask, especially with this time of COVID when a lot of people have moved out of their meeting places. See if you can actually lay your hands on those documents, because if we're ever audited by Rotary International, we will need to produce them. Then again, we hope that there will never be any misuse of grant funds, but that is actually what my position is. If it is, you report it to me, I report it to the district governor, we report it to Rotary International, and we take care of it. Okay. How do you implement these qualification documents? First of all, make sure you've got that separate bank account. You should all have it by now. I know we've had a couple of naming questions, but hopefully those have all been straightened out. If you're doing any global grants that you are managing, most of the global grants, the money is being handled by the company, by the club in the international where the grant is. But if for any reason you are handling it, it has to be a totally separate account, okay? But one for our district grants is also required. This is required. You have to have 2 authorized signatures for all expenditures. So either 2 signatures on your checks, or you can have a payment authorization form, which we highly recommend. And Ron Young put one up on the website. If you have 2 signatures on that, that will suffice. You're required to keep all paid invoices for your district grant final reports. Any receipts, any funds that you expended, you have to show that you've paid it, okay? And then you can report the report that you send in by May the 31st. Keep a copy of that as well. And again, keep them for 5 years. And then most critically, you do not spend any district grant funds until you receive the district grant funds. And we'll mention that means that you have put your matching dollars into your separate account. Okay, so important points. Any district designated funds, that's the money that you're getting from the district and from the district, okay, are received. Please deposit them immediately in your district grant account. Don't put them in your operations account. Put them in the district grant account. We will also deposit them directly for you if you would like for us to. That Royal we, Naomi will do this, or Dave Hamill, one of the two. We'll put them directly into your bank account if you want to show that, okay? The money that's in that district grant account is to be deposited, and it is only to be used for what you're spending for the district grant. The district grant projects, when you're contributing your cash, that cash has to be in there before the DDF will go in. And then you have to pay all of your bills out of that account. So if all goes well at the end, you know, what you put in and took out this year will end up to be zero. I know you'll always keep a little balance in there to keep the account open from year to year. So again, don't disperse any funds until your application is approved. And the DDF from the district is in your account. You can't do reimbursements to anyone for monies that they spent before. That is not allowed. All right. And then just so that you understand, about 15% of our district grants will be audited. Ron Young is our auditor, and every year no matter how many times we say it, they always manage to end up with some problems and some questions. So mostly it's people not having their receipts or not writing their checks out of their district grant account. So make sure that you keep these forms, and that, as Naomi said, this is posted on the website, so you'll be able to see it. You have to have a copy of your application and the final report, current bank signature cards. This is always the big one. Bank statements showing the funds coming in, any canceled checks, check registers, and paid invoices, receipts, your District 5000 disbursement authorizations, payment vouchers, and then a copy of your bank reconciliations. That's what our auditors will be asking for, so might as well have them ready. And since it's only one account, and since the numbers aren't really big, it should be a very simple thing to do. So thank you all for using your funds. Thank you all for collecting your funds so that you have funds to use. And let's keep doing good in the world. Thank you. Okay, Mark.
Okay, so I'm going to start talking about financial management. And I'm going to begin with financial management of global grants. We've been discussing district grants mostly up to now. The first thing that is important is that we now have a commitment letter for presidents and president-elects to designate the global grants that you want to make commitments to. You can make commitments to more than one. So out of all the grants that were presented at the project fair, you can choose up to, you know, as many as you feel like supporting. It's good to, you know, contribute at least $100 to a global grant. But the important thing here is to have your club president and president-elect both sign this document. And the reason for that is because in a lot of cases, the grants are not approved until the following Rotary year. And so it's important for your president-elect and her board to realize that they do have commitments that were made in the previous year that they have to honor during their year. So that money needs to be set aside at the very beginning of the budget year so that you'll have the money to make your contribution to the grant you're committed to. So retain copies of this Global Grants Commitment Letter. Make sure your president-elect and your incoming board have copies and understand the commitment. Okay? The commitment exists until the grant is approved or canceled. Okay, so that's the commitment letter. So now we're going to get into things that are a little bit more fun for some people. A lot of people ask about the Rotary Foundation funding model. Why is it that our administrative expenses are such a small part of our donation corpus? The reason is our unique funding model, which is based on a 3-year rolling basis. So what happens is that you make a contribution, the Rotary Foundation uses that money for 3 years, collects the returns on the investments, and then returns the money to the district in the form of DDF. So what happens, you make contributions to the annual fund, the endowment fund, the Polio Plus fund. The Polio Plus fund is a separate account. So all of that money is going to be used for polio. So it's not going to go into the share system. Once the 3 years have passed and the money is released for the share system, 50% of that money goes into the World Fund. Now, and 50% of it goes to district designated funds. In other words, the contributions that we made 3 years ago, half of those will come back to our district in the form of DDF to be used for our grant projects. And half of that will go to district grants. And more or less, the other half will go to global grants along with polio, the Rotary Peace Centers, and a few other things that the district contributes to. A lot of people believe that when the money goes to the World Fund, that it suddenly disappears and is no longer available to us. But that's not really true, because where the World Fund goes is mostly 80% of that goes to supporting Rotary Global grants that our district is doing. So 80% of that World Fund money comes back to us in the form of matching funds for our global grants. So here's an illustration of how the Rotary Foundation funding model works. So for example, the funds are raised in 2014-15. These are the contributions our district made in 2014-15. They're not actually spent. They're not actually given to us until 2017-18. And then any funds that we don't use are rolled over into 2018-19, and they stay in our account. They stay in our DDF account. So once those funds are released, as I said, they go into global grants, district grants, and other donations, for example, to the Peace Centers. Again, here's another illustration of how the share system works. The donation is invested for 3 years. The growth in our investment supports the foundation and its operations. The corpus, the original donations, are returned to the district in the form of DDF, 50%, and the other 50% goes into the World Fund. An example of how the Rotary Foundation budget works. The total contributions in 2019-20 were 408 million. 123 million of that went into the annual fund. 139 went into Polio Plus, and about 40 million went into the endowment fund. 43 million went into other funds, and those funds support the areas of focus. They're also used for global grants. They support the areas of focus, they support the peace centers, and they support direct contributions to District 5000 district grants. Here's another example how program awards are spent. 2019-20, Polio Plus got 151 million, global grants got 95 million, district grants got 33 million. So this is the scale, this is the amount of money that is going into Rotary Foundation grants in a single fiscal year. And of course, that amount is growing every year. In 22-23, share and polio together were budgeted for $265 million. The investment account yielded 52 million, and the endowment fund 41.5 million. The allocations, 156 million to the annual fund, 137 million to Polio Plus. And so program awards, district designated funds for $80 million. The World Fund got $37 million, and Polio Plus got 152 million. So that's the scale of our program. It is significant, and it gives us an entree into the world of global foundations like Gates, UNESCO, the World Health Organization, etc. So the problem, the challenge to the Rotary Foundation funding model is that global grants are amazingly popular with Rotary clubs and districts. The growth of global grant contributions has risen from 2013 2014 to 2019-20 by 102%. The growth in global contributions to the Rotary Foundation have risen by only 6%. So you can imagine there is a real squeeze on how Rotary is funding the World Fund and and the Rotary Foundation grants program. The future, the solution eventually to this problem is the growth of the endowment fund. And as you can see here, the endowment fund has grown by leaps and bounds since 2011 and has grown to $21 million by 2021. And the Rotary Fund, and that is just the distributions from the endowment fund. The endowment fund itself is close to $500 million in actual funding, and that doesn't count the commitments that have been made to the Rotary Foundation. So that is the future. But for the present, the Rotary Foundation has found it necessary to make some adjustments to the way that global grant funds are funded. So in District 5000, the endowment fund in District 5000, for this year in 21-22, we received a share allocation of $144 million. And of that, we spent 15,000 on Polio Plus, 2,000 on Peace Centers. We've allocated 16,700 for Randy Hart, District Governor Randy Hart's global grant allowance, 75,000 for district grants. That's 50% exactly of the share allocation to our district. And then we had 66,300 for global grants. So global grants, Rotary Peace Centers, and Polio Plus basically make up the rest of that District 5000 budget. In our district, we have a very unique program of sharing that money with the clubs. A lot of districts have the clubs apply for global grants. It's kind of on a first come, first served basis, or the district governor makes a decision about which grants are worth funding. In our district, we return all the money to the clubs and return it on the basis of what your average contributions to the Rotary Foundation were in the past 3 years of available data. So we take these 3 years, we get an average for each club. That's a percentage of the total contributions in that year. And your total DDF is based on that percentage. So each club has a different amount, and each club gets 50% for district grants and a somewhat smaller percentage for global grants. And we have a requirement for matching. 60% of your funding should be matched by your club. 40% is basically free money. So you get that with no matching requirement. So those are your allocations for district designated funds. Rotary global grants require that grants take place in Rotary's areas of focus. And as you can see from this diagram, at the very top of that schematic is the area of peace and conflict resolution. This is the umbrella for all of the other areas of focus. If you remember the mission statement of the Rotary Foundation, it is to enhance goodwill and understanding through the alleviation of poverty, et cetera, et cetera. So peace is at the very top. Our areas of focus, of course, we have our new area of focus of environment. Our largest area of focus is disease prevention and treatment, community and economic development. That's kind of a catch-all. It used to be mostly allocated to microfinance projects, but recently microfinance has sort of fallen by the wayside, and increasingly these go directly to community development projects. One of the largest and most powerful areas of focus is water and sanitation and hygiene. The Rotary Action Group for WASH is probably the most powerful Rotary Action Group we have. And so this is a very important area of focus. Basic education and literacy, who could argue with that? And then maternal and child health. And this has become, maternal and child health have been adopted, particularly by past President Mehta and our current President Jennifer Jones, as a way of empowering girls. And so maternal and child health has been getting an increasing amount of focus for the Rotary Foundation, and it's something that we need to pay attention to. This diagram gives you a kind of general breakdown of which areas of focus are most popular or which most actively supported. Disease prevention and treatment down here on the bottom right is by far the largest area of focus. And that kind of makes sense. These grants are fairly straightforward. They usually involve equipment for a hospital in a rural area or in an underdeveloped country. So they are very, very popular. The second most popular is water and sanitation and hygiene. And they are very popular in our district. Amongst the task force for Nepal, 3 of our grants have been in the area of water and sanitation. An interesting phenomenon that's taking place is that basic education and literacy, the Rotary Action Group for Basic Education and Literacy, and water and sanitation and hygiene have increasingly been focusing on projects together in projects such as water and sanitation in schools. And we have also done a lot of grants in that area. They are now developing a new program in WASH with disease prevention and treatment, and developing grants in the area of water and sanitation in healthcare facilities. So that obviously clean water, sterilized water is an important asset for hospitals. So developing that particular coordination between WASH and disease prevention and treatment makes a lot of sense. And then, as you can see, peace and conflict resolution, relatively new grant, is getting relatively little attention. And that's something that I certainly would like to work on. Then maternal and child health is still relatively small. And as you can see, as of the time this graph was made, up to 2019, there were no grants at all in the area of environment. And that's because we could only do environmental grants starting last year. Here's another grant showing the same thing, but this is in terms of money. So for example, 59 million went to fighting disease, 15.3 went to WASH, 11.9 to growing local economies. So that gives you an idea of the scale of our grants program once again. Okay, and here's our new area of focus, supporting the environment. The Rotary Foundation is actually last year earmarked $2.4 million for grants in the new area of focus. And I promise you that all of that and more was taken up with sustainable environment grants for last year. So I spoke a little bit before about the change in the funding model for global grants. And as I said, that is necessitated by the huge popularity of global grants. So in 2018-19, for example, we had 1,403 global grants worth $86 million compared to 2013-14, when we had only 868 worth 47.3. So the demand for global grants shot up in that period by 80%, while total annual fund contributions rose by only 7%. So what the Rotary Fund has done, first of all, 2 years ago, the Rotary Foundation announced that it would no longer match the cash from clubs for global grants. So previously, the Rotary Foundation would match club cash contributions by 50%. They stopped doing that last year. Also last year, they reduced the funding for DDF contributions by districts to 80%. So in the current World Fund model, the DDF contribution to a global grant is $20,000. The 80% World Fund match is only 16,000. So you have a global grant of 36,000, and the minimum is 30,000. So in our district, we have a little bit of an advantage because we require the clubs to match their cash with DDF. So all of the clubs have a global grant allocation of DDF. So we get $20,000 in DDF contributions to the global grant, but we also get a club match of 20,000. And then we get 16,000 from the World Fund. So our total grant, instead of 36,000, is 50,000. So that works to our advantage, and our funding model in District 5000 helps us maintain the level of our global grant funding. So this is all pretty simple, and most of you are aware of this, but this is a quick schematic showing the difference between district grants and global grants. And the difference is actually vast. District grants are administered by the district. We collect the applications. We do the allocations of DDF to the clubs. We collect the final reports. There is no maximum or minimum on the cost of each district grant. A global grant has a minimum budget of $30,000, and that has to include district DDF and club cash contributions. The funding for district grants is DDF with a mandatory club match of 60%. For the global grant, you have a DDF allocation of DDF, so you also receive World Fund matching, and of course, you've made your cash contribution. The district grant application is on the District 5000 website. The global grant application is online, and it's automated. So you have to apply for a grant through Rotary.org. As far as areas of focus are concerned, the district grants have no specific requirement on areas of focus, although we are required to indicate generally where our district grants fall. In global grants, they are required. Partnerships, there's no partnership required for district grants. For global grants, you must work with a Rotary Club in the country where your grant takes place. So when we do a global grant with Nepal, Nepal is the host club, and we are the international partner. Sustainability is not required for district grants. We often use our district grants for emergency situations or for situations where we're not necessarily interested in sustainability. You may want to support a food bank if they're running low on food. That's not necessarily sustainable, but it certainly meets a need. In the case of global grants, there's a very strict sustainability requirement. Measurability is required for both district grants and global grants. We require you to, on your district grant report, to report on how many people benefited, in what way they benefited, how they were involved, and how Rotarians were involved. In the case of global grants, measurability is required, and measurement and monitoring are increasingly part of the global grant requirements for the final report. And Rotary has begun to track those results and report them to the Institute for Economics and Peace and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals reporting organization. Scholarships, in the case of DDF and district grants, you can do a scholarship for high school, junior high school, vocational training. In the case of global grants, they are only applicable to graduate and postgraduate study. So some examples. In last year, we did 95 district grants in District 5000. Our total budget, including our club contributions, was $125,000. They're small scale and short term. You can do either local or international projects. They align with the Rotary Foundation's mission. So they don't necessarily have to be in an area of focus, but they should contribute to the foundation's mission. The district receives a single grant of DDF from the Rotary Foundation. We collect the applications from the clubs. We collect your contributions, and then we file a general application that includes all of the applications from the clubs. So we received $78,000 in DDF, and with the club cash and other contributions, we had $125,000 worth of grants. Global grants, we had a humanitarian projects in the areas of focus. Some good examples, Honolulu Sunrise, Dave Mosrin has been doing projects in Thailand, focusing mainly on hemodialysis machines. He's been doing that for 7 or 8 years. The Gift of Vision with the Rotary Eye Hospitals in New Delhi is another example of a grant in the disease prevention and treatment area of focus. Global grants also include vocational training teams. So Honolulu Sunset did a rotoplas project. This is for cleft lips in Iasi, Romania. They actually set up a state-of-the-art training hospital for cranial surgery in Romania, and it's continued that over the years with a series of global grants. Training pediatric surgeons in Tanzania and Uganda. We've had 2 global grants in this area from the Rotary Club of Kihei Wailea. And so vocational training teams are an important part of what we're doing with our global grants. Rotary Global Scholars. I mentioned before that Rotary Global Scholars are graduate students, are students doing post-global scholarship work. Ariel Sinek was from the Rotary Club of Windward, Oahu. With the assistance of Rotary, she received her master's in international relations at the University of Paris in London. And she is now employed in London by a nonprofit called the Indo-Pacific Think Tank, which has been in business for 44 years. Another global grant scholar with Honolulu Sunset is Yi Lai. He is from Taiwan. He's hosted by the Rotary Club of Honolulu Sunset. He's been working on his PhD at the University of Hawaii since 2019, working in the area of peace and conflict resolution. So global grant scholars. Programs of scale grant. This is a not widely understood program. It was introduced last year. They are multi-year programs that benefit large numbers of people. They align with the Rotary areas of focus. The World Fund awarded $2 million for this grant with no additional Rotary funding required. The required implementation with partner organizations. The Rotary grant against for malaria eradication was done by Rotary clubs in Nigeria and received a $2 million grant. Their partners were the Gates Foundation and World Vision. It's a competitive two-step project. So what you do is you submit a fairly detailed explanation of your concept. And then once the Rotary Foundation indicates that the grant is eligible for a programs of scale grant, then you actually submit a formal application, and that goes back and forth with the grant managers until they decide among the competitive grants. In 2021, the project was to eliminate malaria in Zambia. And in 2023, saving lives of mothers and newborns in Nigeria. It aligned with the areas of focus, disease prevention and treatment. The World Fund award of $2 million. The implementing partners were the Gates, the World Vision, co-funded the project with $2 million each. So the total projects were $6 million. So that really brings us into the world of major philanthropic organizations. And this is something the Rotary Foundation has been aiming for years. Disaster response grants. We did a disaster response grant in Hawaii last year at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic for $25,000, with $5,000 going to each club, each of the neighbor islands, and $10,000 going to two different coalitions of clubs in District 5000. And those were specifically related to the pandemic. They were not required to be sustainable. Most of them went to food and medical supplies, personal protection devices. The second district grant that we've been involved in is a multi-district grant arranged by District 26, our district, and it went to Ukraine for medical supplies. We actually worked with a club in Poland to send an ambulance and major medical supplies through Poland to Ukraine. We're now working on another multi-district grant in our zone for $200,000 to supply shelter, to rehabilitate an apartment building in Kharkiv and supply it with heating because winter is coming and temperatures will drop below zero in Ukraine. So disaster grants are becoming a really powerful way for Rotary to make a difference on the world stage. So here's a little overview of the disaster response grant in Ukraine. There are 53 districts who have received at least 2 grants for Ukraine. 17 multi-district grants have been approved. These grants are very short term. It takes about a week to submit to get all the signatures. The grants are approved in about a week. We buy whatever we're buying, whether it's an ambulance, medical supplies, setting up the contract for rehabilitating the apartments. We do the final report and then we apply for another one. And that's how our zone has been turning over these grants one after another. There was about $15 million at the beginning of the program. We have spent 11. There was about 4 million left. And our newest grant will be part of that $4 million. And we plan to have all of that money spent by December and then begin fundraising again for the disaster in Ukraine. A really important thing for our district that we need to start working on this is getting Rotaractors involved in global grants. As you know, Rotaract has been recognized as a partner of Rotary International. So Rotaract clubs are now officially part of Rotary. And as of last year, they are able to participate in district and global grants. So this year, we're actually allocating money to our Rotaract clubs for district grants. They also will be eligible for global grants. The catch is that before they can initiate a global grant, they need to partner with one of our Rotary clubs on a global grant in order to be qualified to work on their own. So if you have a Rotaract club, if you're sponsoring one, start talking to them about getting involved in a global grant. Okay, community assessments. I'm going to talk a little bit about how global grants work. One of the things that distinguishes Rotary grants from the typical foundation is that we do not work with governments, we do not work with militaries, we work with NGOs, but only through our partners in the country where the grant takes place. So we are always partnering with another Rotary club. Usually we are the international partner and the Rotary club that is the host club is in a developing country. Usually the host club will be responsible for the community assessment. These are required for every global grant. And what we're looking for here is for our host Rotary club to talk to the community to find out what their priorities are, to ensure that we have buy-in, that community really wants to do this project and that it's a high priority for them. That is one way that we ensure sustainability, because we actually have the community involved in implementing these global grants. The global grant that we're thinking of doing should be talked through with the host Rotary Club. This has become increasingly possible because of our use of Zoom. So in the last year, we have been doing weekly meetings with our partners in Nepal. We actually have a Nepal task force, And we meet with our partners in Nepal every week to talk about the global grants that we're considering. I meet every week, every month with my partner in India to discuss the global grants that we're working on there. So Zoom has really empowered a kind of global Rotary friendship exchange that leads to much more powerful and sustainable global grants. I see that our time is getting short, so I'm going to skip through some of the community assessment slides and go directly to how we manage grants in our district. So what I have on the screen here is a screenshot of our district grants page on the District 5000 Foundation or the District Rotary website. And the way to find this page is to go to Foundation and Grants at the top of the homepage, click on that tab, and there'll be a drop-down menu that has global grants, district grants, promoting peace, and Polio Plus. So find the district grants page, and you will find all the documents you need to qualify for global grants. So here are the qualification documents that you need right here. The grant report in the application, the district application frequently asked questions. They're all here in this right-hand sidebar. Your DDF allocations are right at the top. So use the District 5000 website. Aside from these vital links that lead you to the documents, there's a lot more information about how district grants work and how to make them work for your club. So getting into the Grant Center for global grants requires you to go to Rotary.org. And the place to start at Rotary.org, you sign in and then find the Take Action tab. The drop-down menu will take you to the Grant Center, and you want to click on that, and that will take you to this page. If you're applying for a global grant, you click here. Whoops. If you're applying for a global grant, if you want to start one, this is where you start, apply for grants. If you want to see the grants that you're working on, you go to My Grants, and that will take you to this page. And these are all the grants. This is my view of the Grant Center. These will take you to all the grants that we're involved in District 5000. If you do this, it will take you to the grants that your club is involved in. And this is where you can find out, when you file for the grant and when your report is due. You can also open the grant and edit it. This is where you edit the grant, you put in your committee members, all that sort of thing. So this is how you find the grants page on the Rotary.org website. Rotary Foundation resources. Aside from this Global Grants Seminar, a really good place to learn about global grants is on this Grant Management Seminar in the Learning Center. And we really encourage you to take advantage of this. The Learning Center has courses on almost everything you could imagine in Rotary, but especially in the area of global grants. This is about a 2-hour course, and it will take you through the areas of focus. It will take you through sustainability, setting up a community assessment, maintaining sustainability, communicating with your partners. There are all sorts of courses, but this one in particular is very detailed and very, very good for learning about how global grants work. There is a resource guide on our zone website, which is 2627. I have actually downloaded this. It's a PDF. I've actually downloaded it, and you can find it on the Global Grants page, the District 5000 website. Here's a picture of our Rotary International president. And as I said before, all of our work centers on peace. A good place to find out about how global grants work and to get help with technical issues and to learn a lot, to get involved, to get engaged, is through Rotary Action Groups. One of the most powerful Rotary Action Groups is the Rotary Action Group for Water, and sanitation and hygiene. Excuse me. But this Rotary Action Group has a very extensive website. The action group will mentor and train Rotarians. They have seminars almost every month, and they also collaborate with basic education and literature and disease prevention and treatment to do cross-area focused projects and seminars. They're also now working with the Rotary Action Group for menstrual health. So all of these action groups can get you involved in the areas of focus. Also, it will help you identify international partners and sources of funding. The Rotary Action Group for Washington Sanitation has a huge network of clubs and districts that are looking for global grant projects. They'll help you prepare applications. You can send many of the leadership of the Rotary Action Group for the Rotary Action Groups are also Rotary cadre members. Rotary cadre members are specialists in the areas of focus that they cover. So if you submit your global grant to an action group, they can help you work out the technical details or any problems you may have with sustainability or whether or not you're working within the area of focus. They can assist you with monitoring and evaluation. And most important, they can advocate for change. They can advocate for change within Rotary. They can ask for a greater focus on the area of focus, but they can also work through the NGOs, through Rotary's partners and the Institute for Economics and Peace, through the Rotary Representative Network and all of the United Nations agencies. So one of their major roles is advocating for Rotary in the areas of focus. So Erica Gwynn, who is the areas of focus manager for the Water and Sanitation Rotary Action Group, put it very well. And she said, I believe that the strength of Rotary is the advocacy role it offers, that it can influence decision makers with making real systemic changes in the role of governments, and that Rotarians are in a unique position and they have great and extensive networks. Rotarians have changed national agendas. So on October 21st, Jennifer Jones is going to be participating in the World Health Organization World Polio Day celebrations that are presently taking place at the World Health Organization Summit. So Jennifer Jones will be giving a keynote speech. She will have a major voice for Rotary and at the World Health Organization meeting. You may not know this yet. Ross Cooper just sent out a Gmail, but Gates Foundation has just committed an additional $1.2 billion to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. And that is partly due to its partnership, a longstanding partnership with the Rotary Foundation and a very successful longstanding partnership in matching. The Gates Foundation has matched the Rotary Foundation 2-for-1, by God, since the inception of the Future Vision program in Rotary. Jennifer Jones, in her keynote speech, she's already published this, so it's a bit of a known news, but or a bit of a spoiler, I should say. The Rotary Foundation is committing to $150 million in contributions to Polio Plus for this fiscal year. So don't forget that advocacy position. And we have exactly 2 minutes left for questions and answers. Although I think we could probably stick around if you're burning with desire to ask something. And I will stop screen sharing so you can see me. Whoops. And I can take a, why can't I stop screen sharing? Oh, here. There we go.
So if everybody can turn on their video, please, we need to take roll. And I'm going to take a picture. And there are a couple of people who haven't added their club name. So if you can make sure your club name is on there so we can make sure you're here.
We're getting there.
Yep, we're getting there.
I was losing my voice at the end there. Sorry about that.
And Susie had a question about knowing which global grants that the district was involved in, is involved in. So Susie, there's a PowerPoint on the district website in the foundation. Go to global grants and there's it'll list out all of the ones that we're involved with. Okay, so is everybody, so I'm assuming the people who haven't turned on their video can't, or they're not here.
They're playing hooky.
Yeah, we need Kelly and Ralph and David. Which club are you with?
Oh, David is on
Oh,
the line.
Joshua just said he cannot
Okay.
turn on his video,
Got it. Okay.
Okay,
but he's
Yeah, we
here
got
because
Josh. Yeah.
because he's in the chat.
okay. So I want to wrap up. So I'm going to
Okay.
share my screen with a few notes. So to wrap up, the key dates that we talked about today, the November 1st is when your club pledge is due for global grants. The president and president-elect signs that, send that to Mark Harbison. The grant qualification documents are due January 31st. That's where your PE and the PN signs, two different people. And you're going to be sending the MOU, the addendum, and the financial plan, the tax return, whatever filing you have for the June 30, 2022 is due in November. So you should have that already, GET filing, and the two people attending. So that's what you need to qualify and by January 31st. Please make sure when you sign the MOU addendum and the financial plan, 3 documents, that you read what you're signing, because a lot of the requirements are in those documents. Okay, May 31st is when the final grant reports are due. It's actually due 2 months after you finish your project, but no later than May 31st. Then June 15th is when your application is due for next year. So the PE is going to be signing the grant application. Okay, and then your club cash for that application needs to get into your grant account by July 31st so that you can give us a copy of that statement. Okay. So some of the key takeaways, make sure you read your documents. All of the grant transactions need to go through the club grant account. Use the voucher for disbursements that's required now. You have 2 authorized signers to authorize the disbursement of the grant money. Use your grants only for the purpose that you said you were going to use it for on your application. If it changes, you need to reapply and revise your application. Okay, and get a new approval. If you're not going to use your grant funds, please send it back to the district as soon as possible so we can redeploy it. And your final grant reports, don't forget, it's May 31st. Okay, and then like we're 7:03, but if you have questions, now's the time.
And I'm just going to answer a question that was asked to me earlier today, which is, when do I send in my money for the global grant? Since you're doing your qualification, since you're doing your choosing of the global grant, you don't send in the money until you are asked for it. That will be after the grant is approved and the lead club will ask you to send the money. But right now, what you do is send in that commitment form to Mark Harbison.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, you know, I mentioned that the global grant applications are done on the Rotary.org website, and the DDF allocations and the matching from the World Fund, all of that takes place in Chicago. So it all takes place in the Rotary Foundation. So the only thing that the club needs to worry about is getting their cash in to the Rotary Foundation. And that's that. We have 3 or 4 methods of doing that. So the grant manager, the person who is running the grant, will send you an email and ask you to send the money where they have set up an account.
And I think our next group is joining, so we should probably finish this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's all
Very,
go
very
ahead.
much.
It's long past time for Pauhana and Mike. Do you want to jump in here?
No, he's saying goodbye.
Saying goodbye.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much and take care.
Thank
Who
you.
is Ralph? Need to know who Ralph is.
We need to know who Ralph is. Do you know who Kelly is?
Yeah, that's Kahala Sunrise. Yeah,
Oh,
Kelly.
okay, great. Thank you. I can't recognize.
I wonder if that's Ralph from Pro Ridge.
I don't know. Okay, all righty. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Nestorio thought it was at 7.
Am I late?
I saw Carl and Nestorio
Yes, you're
joining
late.
in. I thought there was maybe another meeting that they were joining. in.
Oh, sorry
I thought
about
it was
that. It was 7
Oh,
o'clock.
Benson thinks it's at 7
thought it
too.
was
Oh,
7.
okay.
Oops.
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 Okay. Well, I guess I get
Oh,
up early
okay.
today.
Take
Carl,
care, everyone.
Good thing you had 2 people. You
Yeah,
did.
you had 2 people. You were in good shape, right?
I'm here. That's 3.
Okay. Thanks. Take care,
Okay,
guys.
thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Well,